Hello everyone, welcome and welcome back to another beautiful happening in the world, in the experience of life, and in the cosmic sky, which is where we can look at and name and define the energies, but they're really going on inside of us. They're happening inside, outside, all around. They're happening collectively and individually. And I'm happy to sit here and speak a little bit about it. And yeah, I am right here now in the beautiful lands of Portugal and taking a moment of inspiration in this life, taking a moment of discovering new lands and being in different frequencies. So I'm happy to bring the power of the stones to you today. I'm happy to bring the power of huge majestic rocks and the power of the waterfalls and the frequencies of this land that I'm so grateful to be sitting on right now, that I'm grateful to be able to travel upon, to walk upon and roam freely. I understand that this is a great privilege, and I would like to use it and allow this energy to infuse so that you can taste a little bit of it, you can maybe feel and grasp a little bit of it, and maybe you can feel some inspiration through that as well. So what is happening right now? We are in the moment of a full moon. We are approaching a full moon. It's going to be on the 25th of this month of March. And probably you've heard it, maybe you haven't, that's also okay. We have an eclipse coming up. So this is going to be a partial lunar eclipse, and then we have a total solar eclipse in 2 weeks when we experience the new moon. And right now, this full moon is happening in the axis of Aries and Libra. And the reason why this is especially an intense time, an intense moment, is because not only do we have a full moon, which is already an intense moment where we have a bigger light shining and reflecting on our emotional world, where we are able to grasp things and gain a deeper connection, a deeper understanding. But also we have an eclipse, which is something happening regularly when the path of the sun and the moon cross the path of the lunar nodes. So when the full moon and new moon happen at the points where the ecliptic circles of the sun and of the moon meet, those are the nodes, the north and south node. Yeah, and these are very karmic points. These are very complex points, and they belong into the realm of subtle energy, of subtle understanding. So an eclipse moment is both a time where we can experience sudden shifts in energy, sudden changes, but it's also a time where we can open up a new layer, like pulling back the curtain on an especially sunny day and notice all of the parts on the window that have never been cleaned properly or that have just always been overlooked, and kind of reaching a new layer, a new dimension. And this can happen on the very, very subtle level as well. It's not just about the big, huge aha shifts, but it's also connecting with that tiny micro shift inside that brings a sudden wave of understanding, that brings a sudden wave of release. And what I'm feeling right now is this image of when just something falls into place and all of a sudden there's an epiphany happening, or there's the last piece of the puzzle and all of a sudden the whole big picture can be seen, and it's also a feeling of being finished. So eclipse moments are also about finishing something, finishing a cycle, finishing an emotional transit that we have. So finishing the path to understanding something and finally gaining that realization, finally gaining that understanding. And this will feel different for everyone because we all have very unique and complex components of our psyche, of ourself, that we can see mirrored in our natal charts. And we all have different aspects, different geometric shapes that are formed with all of the transits in the current cosmic sky. And so depending on that geometry, we will feel differently. And if you would like to know more about your specific geometry and the transits that apply to you, you can feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to share some insights with you. And you can also tune into it on your own. You can sit down and meditate. You can call upon the names of the archetypes and ask them for to reveal themselves for information. And you can explore that as well through studying, of course, and just observing. So another reason why this is so intense right now is because the north and south nodes are being brushed upon by the energy of Chiron. And in astrology, Chiron is the wounded healer. And I feel it is both an aspect and energy that is often talked about a lot and mentioned a lot. And at the same time, it's not really understood that well, and that represents the whole energy of Chiron. It's something very noticeable, and at the same time it's hard to define, it's hard to address and to give it one established place, because the energy of Chiron is moving between worlds, it's shifting between worlds. And Chiron carries the energy of a centaur, which is half human and half horse. And already within the whole mythology, there's a theme of misplacement, a theme of rejection, a theme of never fitting only into one thing, one space. So to keep that in mind, that Chiron is also working the subtle realms, and right now we have a huge focus on trying to grasp something that is really difficult to grasp. And I feel like it can be helpful for us if we don't focus on having to name everything, if we don't focus on wanting to solve a problem, but if we actually focus on getting acquainted, getting more familiar, and befriending the more nuanced parts of what is happening, the more nuanced parts of the aspect. Right now, I think it will be very helpful for us to look at the nuances, really diving into the subtle realm and collecting little bits of components to a bigger picture. And instead of trying to understand the whole bigger picture, first trying to understand those components, and understanding and trusting that by understanding those components, the bigger picture will be better understood as well. And being able to sit in the discomfort of not having an answer, being able to sit in the discomfort of urgency, of impatiency, and allowing the process to unfold in its own way, and doing our part, doing our contribution by understanding what are the small actions that I can take, that you can take, that are not trying to solve a problem in a whole, but what are the small actions that will help me to cultivate more understanding, and what are the small actions that will help you cultivate more understanding, and grasping that understanding is like the invisible fluid that will carry all of the other aspects. It's like the air that is brushing upon all of the different plants and all of the fibers, and brushing upon the stones and brushing upon the trees. And it's that connecting force that is essential. Or it's like the water that is harboring all of the different life forms that belong to the sea worlds and to the water worlds, and giving them a space to flow in. Yeah, and let's have a look at some of the aspects as well. We have, first of all, this opposition between the sun and the moon being a moment of heightened intuitive awareness, of heightened sensitivity, and a moment for us to really reflect on how are we able to nurture and nourish the self. And in this case, it's Libra, so also the other. So because it is a big wheel and we always have two signs that are opposite each other, it's really important to recognize the whole axis of a spectrum. It's not just one thing we look at in life, but life is kind of built upon the paradox of duality, and we always try to look to the other side and extract wisdom from both where I am standing and both where the opposite is. And then we try to extract that understanding and find a point of balance in the center, a point of a meeting point of unity, where we realize that this is where these energies merge and they become the same. And that is what combines them and what connects them. And on the polar opposite sides, that is how they complement each other. So that is where they each carry their own unique wisdom, their own specific wisdom, and their own individual wisdom. And this whole axis of Aries and Libra is also heightening this topic, because that is exactly what these two signs are about. Aries is about the self, and Libra is about the other. And it's not so much about the other as an outside part of the self, it's more about the self in relation to the other. Because astrology and the human soul is a vehicle for understanding the soul self. And we understand the self, and we can discover the self as part of a unity, of a collective consciousness, through mirroring in the outside and through reflection. And we are reflecting also what it is that we have inside, which is why the reflection tells us something about ourselves. So Libra is about understanding more about who you are and more about humans as a collective being, as an entity, as an archetype, through dynamics and through relation, through contrast, through interaction. And there we have the north and south nodes right now. So this is really highlighting where we want to move towards, understandings that we want to grasp in this lifetime of existence, and where we have things to resolve karmically, and also where we have a tendency to play out our shadows, and where we have a tendency to grow and to expand in evolution, and where we have the area, the south node is also the area of the life where we feel most comfortable in, and the north node is also sometimes the area where we are exploring unknown terrain and new territory. So with the north node in Aries being a collective transit, it's not a natal chart aspect, that's where it is right now in the sky. We are being shown that collectively, as a whole being, as a whole interwoven human society on Earth, we are exploring the unknown areas of the self and of that innate spark, of the drive, and of the fire and the curiosity that moves us forwards. We are discovering a sense of individuality that has not yet been explored in this way. And we are also discovering a very potent, fiery expression of life that is able to create, that is able to begin something. So we're at a moment of beginning something, at a moment of understanding better our individual self, each and every one of us, and also our needs, each and every one of us, as well as the needs of us as a human, as a collective human awareness. And at the same time, this is an area that may scare us because it is like walking into the dense, unknown forest that has a lot of unknown factors. So we try to prepare for it, but essentially nothing can prepare us for what is coming. So it's also a moment where we are being asked for bravery. We are being asked to apply the gifts of curiosity and of trust to be able to venture out into a new way of acting and ultimately find things that we did not know before. It's about the curiosity and openness of not knowing yet. And with the South Node in Libra, there may be a tendency to define what we think we already know based on the interactions that we have already experienced. And there may be a tendency to also be afraid of exploring that part of individuality because we may overfocus on the other. And we may find safety in tending to the outside world and what we are mirrored with there, instead of looking for that information within. There may be a tendency to do that because the South Node shows us that this is the area where we have already cultivated such a deep understanding that now we are wanting to rely on that understanding. But life is a continuous movement. And yeah, I feel like right now we are also in, we always are, but right now I feel a highlight the topic of the spiral. We are in a spiral movement. And we are not spiraling on one plane. We are spiraling in different planes. We are spiraling in different dimensions. And we reach a point that we have come across before, but we are not exactly the same. We are not at exactly the same point. We are actually looking at a similar field of awareness from a different point, represented by that spiral movement. From an expanded perspective, from a widened understanding. So whatever the process is that you're going through right now, whatever that topic is, allow yourself to explore seeing and understanding the subtle expansion that has already taken place in that area. Allow yourself to validate that. Allow yourself to trust that your experiences have been important up until this point, and now you are venturing into a new area. You're venturing into a new and either a higher or just a widened part of the path. So what has been applied thus has brought you thus far, and it's always a question of life to continue adapting. The North and the South Node, and also the Moon, which is there right now, is showing us about our ability to adapt. With the moon right now nearby the south node, we are being shown also where we may have still resisted adaptation, an area in our life that we may have not adapted to a new way yet, and we may feel very overprotective of how things go and work out in that area of life. Yeah. And of course we have some energies right now that are supportive, and one of the energies right now is Mercury. Mercury is right now right there with Chiron and the North Node. So they're all sitting in Aries. The Sun is also in Aries, and the Moon is there in opposition. And Mercury is the aspect of fluidity, the aspect of movement. Mercury is the ability that you have of communicating. It's the ability to process information. Mercury is your ability to move. That is moving fluids through your body, moving information through your brain, moving electric energy through your whole circuit and through your nervous system, moving your body through different lands, countries, streets, spaces, and also moving energy through you out into the world, through your hands, through what you are crafting and creating, through your skills, and moving insight and information, moving frequency through you by processing and by learning and asking questions and analyzing. And all of this energy that we have inside is right now sitting right next to the North Node and sitting right next to Chiron. So this topic right now is not only highlighted, but we have a heightened need to talk about it, but we also have a better ability to talk about it. And I know that Mercury will be entering a retrograde phase, which means that from our perspective, Mercury will be looking like it is moving backwards through the sky. And even though it's actually moving forwards, from our perspective, it is moving backwards. So we can use that information as a mirror, understanding that even though we're moving forwards consistently in life, there's an aspect of ourselves that seems like it's going backwards right now and is revisiting a moment of the path where it has already been. In this case, the aspect of Mercury, which is communication, analyzing, processing information, like I just said. So I feel like we're going to be working with this energy for a little while. And also in 2 weeks, we have the moon passes by and it meets the sun again. So in 2 weeks, we have a new moon. And that is going to be directly conjunct, even closer conjunct with these 3 aspects than right now. So we are feeling this energy right now. We'll have a peak in 2 weeks, and this will be a second eclipse. So in between Sunday and in between the moment in 2 weeks, we are in a portal of heightened energy. We start to feel these topics really churning and bubbling and cooking, and we're adding ingredients. And as I mentioned, it's important to notice the subtle information, the subtle changes, the subtle ingredients. So when we're cooking, sometimes we don't need to add 5 more spoons of salt, but we need to find the one thing that will balance out a flavor. And if you've ever cooked food and you've ever worked with spices, then you will know not all spices and herbs behave the same way. Some of them, it makes sense to add them in the beginning because they need time to unfold their aroma, and other herbs and spices, they will just completely lose whatever they had to offer. A vitamin and taste will be gone, and it just makes sense to add them at the very end on the top. And of some things you can add a lot, and of some things, if you add a little tiny bit, it will get too spicy much too fast. And in order to cook a delicious meal from an idea, from an intention, we need to understand how the different ingredients work, so that we can choose, we can make choices, and then we can really change. Then we can really start playing. Then we can really begin to understand what we're doing. So by understanding the subtle components of your situations, you're going to be able to cultivate a feeling for how to actually work with these energies, and allow that information to be received with time and with patience. These are not, nothing in life is supposed to happen overnight. That overnight aha, that huge epiphany, that is a culmination of years, of lifetimes of information and understanding and collecting and putting things together, and of dedication and continuously showing up. So even in the moments where we have the overnight night shift, the moment to moment radical change, it's also just a moment in a bigger process. So allowing that process to take place without rushing it, and honoring all of the ingredients that come up. For example, we may have a lot of topic of anger and rage. That is also because we have an opposition with Lilith in Virgo, opposite of Venus. And I feel that is still playing into, our anger being deeply felt on a heart level, and holding space for those emotions, but understanding how much of the anger to use, at what time, in which way, and understanding how it will interact with other ingredients. So if there's something already super spicy and we add even more spice, it may just get overwhelming. But if there's something that is not spicy at all and we add a little bit of spice, it may just feel just right. And understanding how that anger collaborates with other sensations, with other feelings, and that it's not the anger itself that is right or wrong, but that we can really utilize our emotions in a much more beneficial way when we understand how things may react. And then we can take more responsibility for how we choose to express, knowing that our expressions are all valid, and as expressions coming from the self, they are all necessary for you to understand yourself. And at the same time, understanding how those expressions are in alignment with your true desire, what they are actually communicating to you, extracting that, holding compassion for your anger. Venus is also about loving and holding compassion. And right there at her side, at Venus's energy side, is Saturn. And Saturn's energy reminds us that we also need to be able to discipline ourselves when needed, and that we are able to limit in dedication to a bigger understanding. They're both sitting in Pisces right now. So by understanding the bigger picture, we are able to make emotional sacrifices in smaller moments, understanding that they may actually be contributing to something to us building something that we actually want to desire. And that not all expressions of rage at all moments are actually helping us build what we want to build. And that sometimes a limitation of that anger is going to be the key to our success. I feel like that's a huge lesson of this specific transit right now. As it is also in sextile with Jupiter and Uranus. Understanding this will actually help us with the Uranus' change and innovation, and Jupiter's wisdom and life force energy, and they're in Taurus. So understanding this will help us how to actually implement the innovation into the earth realm, into the earth body, through our physical bodies, into this space here on earth that we are co-creating together, that we are cultivating together. And we do that through our bodies because we are the inhabitants of this earth. We are the beings expressing ourselves from out of the earth body. We come to co-create, and understanding the benefit and the bigger heart desire connected to Pisces, connected to the vastness of what we actually are able to emotionally connect with, and understanding the higher spiritual dimension of our existence and of our dreams as a species, as a being, as a consciousness, and understanding those dynamics between limitation and sacrifice, and when it becomes suffering and when it becomes actually enabling to actually implement the changes that we want. I think that's, and when the anger is helping to do that. It's not that there's something that is always wrong, something that is always right. It's about understanding the relations. And with the South Node in Libra, it's understanding that a part of our understanding of those relations wants to be transformed. It wants to be explored in a different way than what we have already established. And that is going to feel scary. We are going to feel fear doing that. Fear that it will not work, and fear that we will fail. And that is the reward of courage. And we can only understand and truly experience that when we dare ourselves to allow that adaptation of our whole emotional understanding to take place, with the connection to this bigger purpose we feel of what it is that you want to do with your existence. The deeper and true desire that you actually have in your life, and how maybe some of these interactions and relations have been distorting how you express your emotions and your pains and your wounds in ways that don't actually align you with stepping more and more into that embodiment and allowing yourself to grow, to expand, and allowing for things to feel better than they have felt. And different, because we will always go through cycles where things feel worse for a short amount of time, and then they feel better again, and then they might feel less good, and then they might feel much more good. And those are natural fluxes of life. Those are natural elements. Nothing stays forever. But we do eventually widen, and we move in a spiral. Yeah, what else? We have Pluto in Aquarius, also in sextile with the Sun right now. Pluto's in 1 degree of Aquarius, and the Sun is in 5 degrees. It's in sextile to the Sun, which means it's in trine to the Moon, since they are in opposition. And so Pluto is also right now taking up space, stepping up to remind us that yes, we are at a moment of evolution. And yes, in order to go through that evolution, we have to confront the things that have not yet been seen. Because how can we widen our perspectives without including aspects that have not yet been included? In order to widen the perspective, we need to step out of our zone, and we need to invite in the perspectives in order that is what becomes the widening. Those added perspectives are the widening. The widening is not just a concept, it's a physical experience. And in order to do that, we need to step in that direction. And so Pluto is there reminding of the evolutionary purpose, the evolutionary intention, but also that it may feel like a moment of walking the realm of the underworld. Pluto is also the lord of the shadow, the lord of the underworld, and understanding that ultimately that is where we can replenish our understanding, allowing ourselves to go down, go below, look up, where we understand. We don't overstand, we understand. Allowing to look within, allowing to look at the shadow, and allowing for a new light. It's a sextile with the sun, allowing for new light and a trine with the moon and new feeling to evolve in that new space, in that new realm. And so it's a very potent time right now. It's a very potent time indeed. There's so much, of course, going on. There's a huge diverse range of aspects and asteroids and different and muses that we can all include and look at the chart. And I think it's always helpful to understand the basic components, and anyone who's willing to go deeper and dive deeper, or who's having some like very specific struggles, there are many tools that we can use to help define and name those things and gain a wider sense of understanding. But what is essentially needed to do that is a willingness. What is needed to understand is a willingness to understand, a wanting to understand, and allowing to understand. Yeah, I think it's also important right now to stay in alignment with our commitments and our own sovereignty. I feel like there's a heightened focus also on our own sovereignty. Juno is also in Virgo right now, sitting at the side of Lilith, and is also in a wider trine with Jupiter, and really understanding that what we are trying to establish right now needs to be connected with your true heart desire, and it also needs to be connected with the commitments that you are willing to make on a long-term basis with the earth that is your body. And understanding that reciprocity, and understanding that relationship with the earth, and understanding that being in relationship with the earth is going to feel like you are in your true kingdom, your true queendom, your true it's going to be able to create the sense of heaven on earth. Because if those commitments are in alignment with your true desire, with your soul desire, then they shall also be committed to tending to those raw needs, to tending to those pains, and honoring them, and allowing for innovations to take place, and understanding that things can be in harmony when we all stay true to what we want to commit to, how we want to relate. And if we notice that there are things that have been feeling not well, really taking time to reflect on what are the commitments that I think I want? What are the types of commitments and relations that I think I can keep? And why do I tell myself that? And is that actually the case? And where do I need to limit myself in order to keep those commitments? Because I understand a bigger reward. And where do I need to maybe yeah, show more dedication to the truth, and show more dedication and discipline to walking the actual desire, and to understand maybe which commitments cannot be kept in this way, and then allowing for those changes to take place. I feel that this has been a lot of information, and I thank you so much for listening, for watching, for taking time to sit and reflect and inquire and soaking it all in. And I hope that you can extract some understanding from this, some wisdom, allow it to churn, allow it to ferment, and allow it to continue developing in the next weeks. Yeah, and allowing that courage to be utilized. And yeah, maybe sharing some of this inspiration with your loved ones, in a way where you can honor and respect their personal experiences as well, where you can honor and respect that they may think and feel differently, and giving space to that, and cultivating a desire to want to truly listen to what the other is experiencing, and asking yourself, what is this other person's experience helping me understand about myself, so I can allow them to be with their experience, and without the need to change them, I can simply hold a deeper awareness of my own. And yeah. So thank you again. I'm going to leave it here right now. And yeah, I hope you find a beautiful moment to honor the moon and the sun and all of the other aspects of yourself, of your soul. And if you enjoyed this, I would be happy to receive feedback or comments, or if you would like to subscribe also to the channel here on YouTube, if you would like to share about your personal experience, I'd be happy to be in conversation. And if you would like some personal information about your chart, you can find out how to reach me. I'll leave the links below. And I hope that you return. I would be very happy if we continue this journey of discovering together. And until then, I wish you a beautiful time and lots of love to you. And I'll see you soon. Goodbye.